Hey everybody, how's it going? I'm Paul, I'm with the Dicey Review, and tonight we're going to be talking about a game that I've come to love over the past few months. So to kind of put you in the mood, imagine with me for a moment, staring out over a bay. The breeze is biting and crisp as you watch the sunrise over the mountains. The waves lap against the dock in rhythm like a brittle heartbeat. And as you pull your coat up against the salty air, you think to yourself, I wish I could crawl back in bed. But the cold and the sun pull you from your thoughts presently as the gulls begin to cry overhead. Their shrill call like an alarm clock with no snooze button, because today there's only one objective. Get out on the water and catch fish. Fish are the lifeblood of your community. Your quiet town has started to become busier over the past few years, and you want to keep up. You have big plans, and you and your company are going to be remembered in the history books as one of the main influences in the development of Nus Fjord. Now, today I come to you from the bustling community of Hurst, Texas, a hot and humid place with little in the way of natural beauty. Now, I'm a mountains and cold ocean kind of guy, and I'm living in a flat land of hot, grassy terrain. Now, I'm here because of good jobs and low cost of living, but sometimes I dream of a crisp ocean breeze or a snowy walk outside. All I ever really see outside are hot days and some rain on occasion like today, but the beautiful thing about the tabletop gaming hobby is that it can transport you to new places an hour at a time. Now, I'm especially a fan of Uwe Rosenberg. If you followed my channel for any amount of time, you may be aware of that. I love Uwe's games for a number of reasons. Usually they feature little in the way of negative player interaction, if any at all. They're more like multiplayer solitaire in most ways, and that's not a bad thing for me. I love to have a shared experience where I don't have to ruin someone else's plans to further my own. The other reason that I love Uwe's games is that his themes are so peaceful and quaint. Uwe incorporates his past and his childhood into themes quite often, and even when he's not exploring his heritage, he usually picks simple themes that portray a certain amount of peaceful serenity. And I'm drawn to those serene settings. Maybe it's because I long to live a fisherman's simple life or escape my corporate business world. Or maybe it's because Uwe's themes expose me to a different lifestyle than I've ever seen. I don't know. But either way, when he releases a new title, I take note. Now, the game that I want to talk about today is one of his somewhat older titles and one that not many people talk about, because I want to talk about the game Nusfjord from Mayfair Games, which is now Asmodee. And as I said, this game is from tabletop designer of some note, Uwe Rosenberg. Nusfjord is an interesting game to me in many ways, and I want to try and tell the story of what makes this game interesting and also why I have fun with it. So I'm going to talk about some of the nuts and bolts of Nusfjord because that's what you do in game reviews, but I also want to discuss some of the thematic elements that I feel make the game richer. Now, to talk about Nusfjord, we have to go all the way to the Lofoten archipelago in Norway, which I am 100% pronouncing incorrectly, I can almost guarantee you. And in that archipelago lies a small fishing town called Nusfjord. As you can see from this beautiful stock footage, this area of the world is picturesque, to say the least, and for that reason, among other reasons, I find the theme of this game so appealing. And discussing theme in a Eurogame is always a bit of a risky proposition because the terms pasted on and bland are thrown around like fish at Pike's Market. But I think with the tabletop games, the effectiveness and beauty of the theme truly can be in the eyes of the beholder. The tranquil and whimsical theme of a shipping company in a small Norwegian town trying to develop and produce economic growth is a draw for me. And once again, I think it's partially because right now I'm drawn to the simplistic and the calm things in life. There's also an element in this game which feels special to me, where you can invite elders to your table. The elders provide you with their expertise and you feed them. This communal aspect of the game is wonderful, and I love how it's implemented. So that being said, thematically this game is similar to many of Uwe's other games. You're an owner of a small business trying to develop the landscape around you, make use of special buildings and actions to gain the most gold and victory points and be crowned the best entrepreneur. The way this happens mechanically is very straightforward. You have 3 workers, or wooden discs, that you can place on action spaces of a central board each round, and each time you place a worker you can take actions like clearing land or gaining wood or building ships to increase your fishing harvest. You can gain gold or even sell shares of your company with a simple but clean and interesting stock mechanism of the game. Now, if you're a tabletop gamer worth your salt, you're probably very familiar with worker placement as a mechanism in board gaming, and even if you're fairly new to the tabletop industry, you've probably played games that use a form of worker placement, or at least were influenced by worker placement. Games like Carcassonne, for instance, use mechanisms that are similar to worker placement, even though they are not true worker placement. Uwe Rosenberg is a fan of designing with worker placement. Almost all of his very popular games, with the exception of Bonanza and Patchwork, use worker placement as one of their driving mechanisms. But I think what Uwe does very well is to bring one or two new, fresh ideas to a sometimes very old concept. Agricola was a wonderful worker placement game that featured tons of occupation and achievement cards that would greatly change gameplay each time you played. But in addition to the cards, players were tasked with feeding their families with a very strict system that caused you to have to really consider the efficiency of each move. And at the time this game was released, these were novel concepts with a worker placement game. With A Feast for Odin more recently, Uwe introduced a Tetris-like resource-generating puzzle that players worked their way through while deciding which strategy they wanted to take in this vast sandbox of options. And it feels to me that Uwe influences trends in game design. Worker placement really seemed to take off after Agricola, and there were a rash of polyomino games after Patchwork. I don't think Nus Fjord will create trends with some of the mechanisms introduced, but there are two aspects of the game that I greatly enjoy. I love the stock aspect of the game for mechanical reasons, and I absolutely adore the Elder cards in Nus Fjord for thematic reasons, so I should explain. First, let's discuss the Elder cards. There's a worker placement space that will allow you to gain an Elder card by feeding them and inviting them to your table. Each Elder has a specialty that allows you to take a very powerful action. They become a worker placement space that only you can use. Now, mechanically, this is a cool part of the game. You gain a powerful action that only you can take, but thematically, this is an amazing part of the game. I absolutely love the addition of the Elder cards in Nusfjord for so many reasons. As a business owner, or even someone trying to make it through tough times in life, who are you most likely to lean on for advice? The people who have been there before you. The idea of a citizen of a small town inviting a respected elder or a community member to their home for dinner and meaningful conversation is a wonderful idea, and I wish there were more of this in my town. I find myself daydreaming about this as I play the game. I imagine an older gentleman or an older lady sitting across the table talking about their profession. I thought about how this person telling you about how they used to do things or learning from their specialties. You might be talking to a ship maker and learn from their stories how to cut costs on building your own ship by increasing efficiency, or learning from a retired logger how to clear more of the forest with less labor. This was such a wonderful and comforting thought that you could gain an advantage in the game by being kind to the elderly people in your village. I also love this thematic element of the game because it emphasizes the importance of quality time spent around a table with those that you love. I know that for me recently, some of the most mundane moments in my life, some of the most mundane conversations and most normal moments have created the longest, most lasting memories for me. You know, conversations had with my granddad, advice that I've gotten from my in-laws, just time spent around the table talking with my friends or having dinner with my family. And this thematic tie-in is so powerful for me because I can draw ties between getting advice from the elders at the table and spending time with those that I love playing board games. I can really kind of put myself in that situation where I gain value and I gain lasting memories and life-changing experiences through very normal quality time spent around a table. So I absolutely love that thematic element of the game. And the second aspect that I really enjoy of Nus Fjord is a mechanical aspect, the stock mechanism. Now, this is a really simple, straightforward implementation. There's no frills about it. Basically, the way that it works is you have 5 shares in your company, and you start off with 3 unissued shares and 2 issued shares. The importance of that is the 3 unissued shares that you have are negative points at the end of the game. So you kind of have to think to yourself, do I want to keep these shares and have some negative points at the end of the game, or do I want to issue these shares? Because what happens when you issue these shares is you can go to a spot on the board and you can say, I want to issue these shares, and I'll sell them for 2 gold, and then a share is available for purchase. Now, You can go back later and buy that share if you want to, but so can other players. Other players can buy your stocks. They can buy shares in your company. And it's kind of an interesting aspect that there's only 5 shares in each person's company based on how many shares are available in actual companies. But for the game, it works really well. So you have to kind of make up your mind, what do you want to do? Do I want to go to a space on the board and issue my shares? I'll get 2 gold if I do that, and that's great. But other people can then buy my shares, and the reason that that's important is at the start of every round, you have to pay dividends to any of your issued shares. You have to pay fish. You have to pay your elders, and then you have to pay each share 1 fish of your company, no matter where it is on the board or other players' boards. So it's kind of a push and pull of this very clean, very straightforward stock mechanism where you can decide, okay, I'm going to take the hit of 3 points at the end of the game because I don't want to have to pay other people, my fish the entire game. Or you can say, I'm going to take the risk. I'm going to go and issue all of my shares and then hope that I can buy my shares back and maybe at the same time grab the shares of 1 or 2 of my opponents. And then that way I could have them paying me fish. So I love that tension, that push and pull. It's very straightforward, but it's a very cool system where you have to try and make that decision. Do I hold on to these shares? Do I issue the shares? Do I go for other people's shares? I'm going to have to spend my gold to do that. But that's going to pay dividends, very literally, the rest of the game in the form of other people's fish that I get for free. And the cool thing about this game is that any fish that are put on shares immediately go into your personal supply. You don't have to put them into a reserve, you don't have to hold on to them in a weird way until later and transfer them from one place to the other. They come directly into your supply. So other people, if you get their shares, you can go ahead and just take the fish that they pay and put it right into your personal supply. So I find that this is a really cool push and pull in this game, and it's super straightforward. It's just 5 shares and you pay 1 fish to every share, and if you don't issue your shares, they're negative points. So I love the simplicity of that. I find that I always am drawn to the simplicity and also the elegance of Uwe's mechanisms. A lot of the things that he does are very straightforward. It's very, it's one of those things, why didn't I think of that, right? But when you play it, it's like, oh, this makes me think. These are decisions that I have to make. I really like this. And when I look at Nus Fjord this way, when I combine the thematic things that I love about the game, the elders and just the warm, fuzzy feeling I get from feeding elders and gaining their experience, and the mechanical tension, the mechanisms of the game that I really enjoy, like the stock mechanism and increasing your haul, all of that engine building that I love so much in Uwe's games. I find that I love the simplicity and the calm feeling I get when I play this game. I'm not stressed. I'm not, Agricola was a fantastic game, and I don't personally get stressed when I play Agricola. I don't feel that tension of, if I don't feed my workers, I'm just gonna fail, because at the end of the day, it's a game, and if I lose, I lose. It's not a big deal. I like to do well if I can, but I don't feel stressed. But this game is even less stressful. There's no phase where you're feeding your people. There's no restrictions to how you can place your things, other than a space just has to be open on your board. This game really is really laid back. It's really calm. It's really peaceful. It's less. There are less options than a Feast for Odin. It's less stressful than Agricola. It is, in some ways even less stressful than some of Uwe's lighter games. It just feels like a very calm, very enjoyable experience. And for that reason, I think this is going to be my go-to suggestion for anybody who wants to dive into a Uwe Rosenberg big box game. Right? There's less rules to learn than Caverna or Agricola. There's not quite as much to take in as a Feast for Odin, even though a Feast for Odin is one of my favorite games. But I had the the intro of Agricola and Caverna to get me kind of ready, and some of his other games like Glass Road and things like that to get me ready for what I consider his magnum opus of A Feast for Odin. I love that. But as someone who had never experienced any of his previous games, if I just got thrown into A Feast for Odin, it might be too much. It might be too much for me to handle. I don't feel like this game is too much at all. It is a very straightforward system. You play a few cards, or you buy a few cards from the general supply, build a few buildings. You kind of have a direction that you want to go, and there's a few things that you can do in the game. You can try and get discounts for building buildings. You can try and increase your fishing capability and building boats. There's a few different directions that you can go, but it's not 1,000 different directions you can go. Sorry, my daughter decided that she wanted to be in the video really quickly. Who's that?
Mommy.
Who?
Lammy.
Lammy. Oh, okay. This is Lammy. Hi, Lammy. Okay, sorry. Where was I? The other thing that I love about this game is that it introduces a solo mode that was introduced in A Feast for Odin, where you block yourself. You choose one color of worker, it's red and blue, that you have to switch between. You place red workers one round, and then the next round you have to place blue workers, and you can't go where you went the previous round. So it's once again a super simple implementation of a solo mode that creates some tension, that creates some thinking where you have to think a round ahead, not just what do I want to do this round, but what can I leave myself and what do I want to do next round. So it's a really cool solo implementation. For all of those reasons, I think that Nus Fjord is great. And once again, this is going to be my recommendation for people who are looking for a Uwe Rosenberg game to dig into for the big box experience. This is a perfect intro into Uwe's big box games. It's a little bit lighter fare. It's not quite as meaty and in-depth as some of his heavier games. But if you are into the worker placement engine building style games that Uwe Rosenberg builds, that he creates, and you've heard all of these amazing things, this is a perfect intro point in my opinion. And it's a game that not many people talk about, but that I really do love, and I've played quite a bit. And for all of those reasons, I think that this game is worth your time. And if you're a fan of Uwe's design style, which I am a huge fan of, I also think that it's worth your money. But that being said, try it first, right? See if you can, see if you can play it and see what you think. I think that you'll really enjoy this game if you're anything like me. So I hope that this was helpful. And if you have any questions or your comments, what you think about Nus Fjord, leave them below. I'd love to hear what everybody else thinks as well, because, I'm just talking by myself. I've been quarantined for the last 6 months. Maybe I've gone crazy. Maybe I'm insane. Maybe this is a terrible game. I don't think so, but tell me what you think. Thanks so much for watching, everybody, and until next time, I'll see you at the table.